Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. This week our guest is Lisa Herlinger, founder of Ruby Jewel, an unapologetically indulgent ice cream sandwich company that launched in farmers markets in Portland, Oregon, and now has national distribution in grocery stores across the country.
We're sorting through all the amazing content from Intense, the National Farmers Market Conference that wrapped up last week. There, we heard Christopher Hudson from Benny Blanco Tortillas explain the value of using local ingredients. Sarah Marshall of Marshall's Hot Sauce, Maya Madsen of Maya's Cookies, and Sarah Delavan, the Good Food CFO, shared their tips for considering whether or not to scale. So we think this is a perfect time, as part of this month's Farmers Market Stories series, to reach back into the archives and listen again to this episode from late 2022, when we, Lisa Herlinger, and former co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead talk about all of those things.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by The Kitchen Door, connecting food entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. with well-run shared-use kitchens. Find clean, licensed kitchens in your area and concentrate on food production and not kitchen and equipment maintenance. Find more information at thekitchendoor.com or by clicking their logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. We are very excited to be joined today by Lisa Herlinger, founder of Ruby Jewel ice cream sandwiches. Lisa is a trained chef turned entrepreneur. She launched that gourmet ice cream sandwich company and brand from the Portland Farmers Market. Now it's grown into a thriving business, including wholesale grocery and convenience store distribution, and she hopes to spread the joy and dominate the frozen novelty aisle nationwide. Lisa spent 17 years working in every part of the business, being the creative force behind all the popular flavors, managing people and partners, and loving the journey. Welcome to Tent Talk, Lisa.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
We're so excited to talk with you.
We're excited to talk. You know, our last podcast guest sent us a box of goodies, which we unboxed during the podcast. So I'm really hoping that Justine has some ice cream sandwiches in the freezer.
I'm sorry to say that. I am hoping that got to your offices as well.
I ate them all, guys.
Okay.
Lisa sent them.
You ate.
I ate them.
All right. Okay.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. If it would have come to me, I would have.
I'll take the hit on that one.
It's all right. Well, we're in Portland pretty often, so we'll just
That's true.
Stop by, get some
scram.
So Lisa, if you want to start by just telling us a little bit about your kind of personal, professional background and what led you to launch Ruby Jewel.
Yeah. Well, always been crazy into food. I call myself a foodie that isn't into like fancy foods. I just love to talk about food. I love to grow food. I love to look at men. I just love food and I'm always thinking about it. So it was sort of just fate to get into the food industry. Although I did go to college to be a physical therapist. But ultimately, always worked with food and then did go to culinary school. I didn't necessarily go to culinary school to be a chef because I had worked in enough restaurants to know that that's not the lifestyle that I wanted, but I just really wanted to be involved with the food world. So basically what happened was I was working as a cook here in Portland and we would have a booth at the Portland Farmers Market about once a month. And it was all the different chefs around were making dips and sauces and donating them to this booth. And then all the money that we would raise would go to the local growing gardens programs. And that was my real aha. I love being at the farmer's market, not as a customer, but as a vendor. I just fell in love with being there early and setting up and the vibe of the farmers and everything. It was really what got me to, okay, what am I going to do to be involved in this community, knowing that I'm not going to be a farmer? So gone to culinary school, working in a kitchen. I just, have always loved ice cream sandwiches. I grew up in California and I would have an It's It ice cream sandwich almost every day at lunch. And so, just being around the market and seeing all the, honey and the fresh mints and the locally roasted coffees, I was like, there's so many like amazing opportunities to make some cool, ice cream flavors and cookie combinations. And I really literally just, applied to the farmer's market while I was able to use the kitchen of the restaurant that I worked at. He let me go off hours and start making up recipes for cookies and ice creams. And that was really the launch of Ruby Jewel.
Wow.
That sounds like the farmer's market dream right there.
It does.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm just wondering how often that PT training has come in handy after a long day of hauling ice chests to the market.
Yes, exactly.
Or eating too many ice cream sandwiches.
I'm much more afraid outdoors person because I'm like, I don't want to twist my knee. I don't want to hurt you. I'm like way cautious now.
That's good. Probably kept you safe.
It's probably good to be that way. Yeah. Because at the market, I'm always like, oh, lifting an A-frame. Like I've tweaked my back. I've like hurt my arm. So
yeah,
that training could come in handy, I think.
So absolutely.
Yeah. So what's your product line at Ruby Jewel? Like tell us a little bit about what you sell.
Yeah. So we have 8 SKUs of ice cream sandwiches with all different, combinations. So one of our top sellers is one of the very original flavors that I created. It was a lemon cookie with honey lavender ice cream.
Oh,
sounds very.
And that was, obviously using local honey and using local lavender buds. I would make a simple syrup with the lavender, just cook it down and, add the honey to that. And that was what made the honey lavender ice cream. We have salted caramel with a double chocolate cookie. We have fresh mint. So we get actual fresh mint and we make that into a simple syrup, and that goes in really, really good clean mint oil from a local mint producer. So, we have 8 SKUs and then we have 4 seasonals that we come out with every quarter.
And are your seasonal ones sort of holiday based or what's in season, fresh fruit wise?
So we have a pumpkin, like a pumpkin. We have fresh pumpkin ice cream with a brown sugar cookie. Used to be
I want one of those.
Cookie, just changed. Yeah. And then we have a peppermint candy, a strawberry lemon, and then in the summertime we have a s'mores ice cream sandwich.
Oh, cute.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so Portland Farmers Market actually has pretty strict rules regarding sourcing local ingredients or certain percentage of ingredients have to be local, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it sounds like you were naturally trending that way anyway, using local ingredients in your ice cream. How did that impact your bottom line? Did that make it difficult to develop a product that you could profit from?
Good question. Well, I always was going to go that route. Like I never even thought about going. The only thing that was detriment, like what wouldn't have done is if we went all organic. So, the organic butter, organic sugar, organic cream, that was not going to make, I didn't want to have a $7 ice cream sandwich, but we've literally always priced the ice cream sandwich at about $3.50 and it's about $4 now per sandwich. And that was, it's priced higher. You could compare it to going to the grocery store and getting like a 6-pack of the cheap stuff for the same price, but this is, an individual sandwich for $3.50. It's very big. It's 5 ounces and, very filling almost. But yeah, it was a non-starter. Like it was always going to be the highest quality of ingredients that would be able to create the margins that we needed to make some money.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a great price point. I feel like for the ingredients that you're using and the flavors and just being at the farmer's market, I feel like every time I take my kids out to ice cream, it's like $7 or $8 for like a scoop of ice cream and a cone or whatever. So same kind of thing. It's a nice.
Yeah. Or like at the market, a single cookie.
Yeah.
Like a Maya's cookie costs like $4.
Yeah.
$4.50, I think.
Yeah. So that's great that you can keep that price point there and still, make your business work. So where did the name Ruby Jewel come from?
Yeah, Ruby Jewel. Well, I did live in Colorado, and there's a yurt. Are you guys familiar with what a yurt is?
Yes, we live in Southern California.
I had cross-country skied a yurt called Ruby Jewel. And it was like me and a couple of women and like some yummy food. And it was just like this beautiful Colorado day with this, snow and this aspen trees and the blue sky. And it was just this amazing, like moment of we're like all day, we're going to Ruby Jewel. And it just felt this like happiness and this energy of that day. And of course, I never thought I would start a business at that point. But when I was thinking about the name, I always thought back to that like happy moment. Like that brought me so much pleasure and so much joy that I thought, why don't we name the company Ruby Jewel?
It doesn't make you happy to say that.
Yeah.
Jewel. Those are just happy words.
Yeah.
And turns out there's a lot of people named Ruby Jewel out there.
Oh, I could imagine like a very
it's a great
luxurious woman.
It's from the South.
Ruby Jewel.
Yeah, from the South. And do they go by Ruby Jewel, like even though Jewel's their middle name? Yeah, it's all one word.
Yeah, Ruby Jewel.
I love that.
I got a lot of emails over the years of, oh, my name is Ruby Jewel.
That's fun.
Cute. So we want to hear a little bit about like the early days of the farmers market.
Yeah.
First off, I have to say, if you go to the Ruby Jewel website, they have a very, very cool like timeline of their whole business. It made outlining this podcast very easy, but also it was very fun to like go back in time and see kind of all these like really cool milestones. So that's your like extracurricular. After you listen to this website, you can go visit their awesome website. But they launched in 2004, which to me seems like, I mean, that's a long time ago. It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And what was like the vibe at the farmers market back in 2004? Obviously, Portland is a big like local food city. It's always kind of been this like hub of, I don't know, just like down to earth, like closely local knit food community. But like, what was it like kind of in the like pre-Omnivore's Dilemma and like when Alice Waters really increased awareness about like food systems, like kind of before the big wave of everybody moving to Portland? What was it like at the market?
Yeah. Well, Ruby Jewel, like the regular market that we did was done at the Eco Trust building, which is kind of down into the Pearl district. So once in a while we would get invited if there was a spot at the big PSU farmers market, which is like, you know, the well-known 10,000 people a day come through there. But our regular market was at the Eco Trust building. And it was just like that real local community of people. And it was such a good variety. We had flowers and, you know, honey and produce and a few food vendors, but it was great. It was just, you know, the regulars would come back every week. It got to a point where the market manager at one point, you know, came up to Ruby Jewel and said, I think people are coming to this market just to get a Ruby Jewel ice cream sandwich, which I thought was pretty cool. No, it was awesome. You know, people just looked out for each other. It just felt like a real community of people. And you got excited to see the regulars every week, and the vendors that we worked with were just awesome. Yeah, it was great. I was like excited every week to go there and be there for those few hours.
So how, you know, in your years doing markets and doing markets in different parts of Portland, have you noticed markets change over the years?
You know, I was thinking about that, and I couldn't really think of any great examples of how they've changed. I think there's been more educational elements to it. Like what I've noticed is, you know, they're doing more cooking classes, more, you know, just ways to get people more involved with the whole food community. There's more like those go boxes, like they're being more, you know, like environmentally friendly with like sharing and having communal forks and spoons and things like that I feel like has changed. But as far as like the actual vendors and the produce and like what's available, maybe there's more, you know, variety of different kimchis or different, you know, meads or ciders, but you know, the actual vibe and that I don't feel like has changed that much personally.
Cool.
Yeah, and I kind of have that same sense. We're coming up on 15 years at our biggest market. And certainly there's more people and there's more vendors, and we've gotten larger over the years, but it's still kind of the same vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like markets a long time ago, like when I was little and I'd go to the markets, or just like back in the day, it was like a little more like cosmic and like
hippie,
a little like, My friends thought it was weird that
So
I
maybe
went
it's a
there.
customer base that's
I think
changed.
it's a customer
Broad.
base. Yeah. And now it's like cool to go to the farmer's market. It's
Yeah,
cool to
that's
eat
fair.
local. It's cool to care about the environment.
Or at
stuff,
least
so.
it's hit a level of mainstream where it's
Yeah.
not so like kooky
Yeah.
when somebody says that they're going to go to the market.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how many markets did you participate in kind of at the height of Ruby Jewel's presence in farmers markets?
Yeah.
And how did you balance working all those markets?
Yes, good question. At the very height, we were doing 4 markets a week. We did the Solid market, the Hollywood market. We did the Lake Oswego market a little bit, and then always the Portland market. It was hard. It's hard. I have such an appreciation for all the vendors that, have to, it's not just like you're there for the 4 or 5 hours of the market. There's so much, setup and, bringing everything there and making sure it stays cold. And so my sister Becky actually had moved up to Portland and was very involved at that beginning. And, we kind of split up. We basically were working them all ourselves. We didn't hire anyone at that point to work the markets. So it was Becky and I actually there talking to people and selling the ice cream and doing 4 a week. That was besides like a few other grocery stores that we gotten into. But that first few years is we were very much just selling at the farmers market besides, some grocery stores and a little bit of catering on the side.
I'm sure that contributed to your success, though, because there's something about I've seen some great farmers market, farmer and vendor employees, but there's something about talking to the person that created that or the farmer that planted it. That one-on-one relationship with the actual producer is just something that really resonates with shoppers. And I have never seen a situation where an owner said, oh, my sales are down a little bit, where if I said, hey, you know what, you should come work next week. Just jump in there and see how it's feeling to you, and their sales go right back up. So
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yes. Yeah.
So I have one question before we hop into some more nitty-gritty about the market.
Yeah.
In my experience, Portland doesn't always have the most temperate climate. Did you find it difficult to sell ice cream sandwiches on like the gloomiest of rainiest of Portlandy days? Or like how did your sales change from season to season? Because a Portland summer day, there's literally nothing it's the perfect place to be in the Pacific Northwest on the perfect summer day, but it can get kind of brutal there during the rainy season. So how did you see your sales shift?
Yes, well, absolutely. First of all, huge bell curve in the business, right? We don't sell as much in the winter as the summertime still to this day. The Portland farmers market was from 9 to 1. And so picture like a rainy cold, like from 9 to 11. I mean, we hardly sold anything. So that's when, it was really good for us to sample and to bring, we call them demos. If they didn't come out perfectly, we never threw anything away. We would, cut them up and use those for sampling. And that it was a great way to like go through the cold, even if it was, really cold out. It wasn't too hard to get somebody to try a little piece of an ice cream sandwich, right? So we used the cold weather to try to sample as much as we could. But yeah, it's true. You don't sell as much ice cream when it is cold and rainy in Portland. But Eco Trust Farmers Market, though, was from 4 to 7. So that was a much better time frame overall. Not as many people, but a better time frame to be selling ice cream.
People in that dessert time of day, that coffee break time of day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're doing a lot of sampling, I mean, most people probably think they have a pretty good idea of what an ice cream sandwich tastes like. So
right.
How'd you convince them that yours were superior? Was that the sampling thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to tell the stories of where we got the ingredients was a huge part of it. You can just taste like the freshness of the mint. It's not your regular green mint that a lot of people, especially back in 2004, it was still, very new to be sourcing and using local ingredients in a commercial product. So that was different, right? The flavor combinations were different. And then the quality, you can taste the freshness of the dairy. You can taste the freshness of the ice cream. the ratio of cookies to ice cream has always been really important to me. I always hated to think of an ice cream sandwich with the cookies being really thick and then just like a thin piece of ice cream just kind of smushes out. So our cookies are particularly thinner, and then we have a big, chunk of ice cream in the middle. So that was also a little bit different and more, people, there really wasn't anything to compare that to, on the market, honestly. And there just wasn't a lot of choices of an all natural clean ingredient novelty. Like there was a lot of non-dairy at the time. And then there was just the ice cream truck, full of hydrogenated fats and, all the things you can't pronounce. So Ruby Jewel really stood out from just being clean ingredient wise, clean tasting, unique flavors, and ultimately just an ultimate indulgent treat,
For sure. And you did some other things to stand out too, right? Besides having this amazing local ingredient product. What did you do in terms of branding and things at the markets to it's a great market and there's a lot of shoppers, but there's a lot of vendors. There's a lot to look at. How did you make yourself stand out?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I, very, very early on had very little money. So, one of the things I invested in, and I felt like it was such a big deal at the time, but I spent $100 on this pink frilly umbrella that we put out in front, and that became like our icon, like the pink umbrella. Look for the pink umbrella. And it's crazy, like it really did stand out. Like wherever you were in the market, wherever you as you're walking towards, you could see this like pink frilly umbrella. And even though now our company has a lot of pink in it, and I'm personally not such a pink person, but it really did help. It really did help make our booth stand out.
I bet you had people say, meet me at the pink umbrella. And, while you're waiting for your friend to show up, you got to buy an ice cream sandwich.
The kids remember what the booth like that they like.
It's also helpful for market staff. It's funny too, because Maya has a pink tent, but it's easy if someone's like, hey, where is this? I can just say like, oh, right past that pink tent.
Yeah.
And even if I'm not directing them to the pink tent, I'm using the pink tent as a marker.
Yeah.
And it sticks in people's minds.
Yeah, market operators kind of like it when there's differentiation amongst the vendor booths because we can use it as like a location point. Or if someone's asking where your booth is, I don't have to be like, okay, go down here and turn a left at this and turn right or whatever. It's just look for that pink umbrella. So that's really helpful. From a market manager standpoint, it's nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we never had a tent. Like we never had like the 10 by 10 tent. We literally just had our little cart with the pink umbrella.
Oh, so you had it all in a little cooler.
Yes. Yeah. At the beginning, cooler and table and umbrella.
And how's that in the rain?
Yeah, you just huddle under the umbrella.
It was we just had to wear the ponchos, but
pink, I hope. I hope those were pink ponchos.
Yeah. And I also feel like Portland people are like, it's fine, it's raining.
Yeah.
San Diego people are like, what did you do when it was drizzling? Did you cancel?
That's true.
I know. If you stopped your life here in Portland because of the rain, you could not do much.
Where Pacific Northwest just carries on for sure. So it sounds like you were able to keep producing a lot of samples partly by kind of reducing waste, right? If a cookie crumbled or something didn't come together quite right. So overall, was there a big cost for the product that you were using to sample?
Again, I really feel like we were good about, not throwing things away. I mean, always are going to have broken cookies, right? Like that's just a thing. And so we would take those broken cookies and just make little sample sandwiches.
So smart.
So yeah. And even bags that maybe didn't come out perfectly, we would use. Like I was very didn't want to waste anything, at the beginning. And so that was part of our ethos, was just let's figure out a way to use it.
Yeah, so smart. So at some point, when you started this, did you think ahead, hey, we're going to start at farmers markets, we're going to do this local thing, and then we're going to go big, we're going to go national? Or were you just looking kind of one or two steps ahead? Hey, this would be fun. Let's take it to farmers markets. And then one thing led to another. What was the path? And I guess I could open your website, as Justine said, and look at that timeline. But we'll let you tell us briefly. How'd that plan start to form?
Yeah, well, truly, it was not knowing, beyond the farmers market. It was really let's test it out. Let's see what happens beyond your friends and family telling you that you have a good product. And so the farmer's market was a huge like aha moment when, I would see people that I didn't know coming back and getting more. And, just watching people enjoy the product that I didn't know was just very validating to me. And then it was truly like at the end of the market season, people kept asking me, well, where can I buy these? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Like I wasn't thinking ahead of at that point until the very end. And then when people were saying, well, where else can I buy these? Like knowing that the market was going to close, that's when I went obsessively started looking in grocery stores and convenience stores all over for what else was out there, what other novelties could even compare, what was the competition like. And when I saw that there really wasn't anything comparable, that's when I knew there was like that white space and that niche to fill. In the frozen novelty aisle, it had been very stagnant and boring for a while. So adding like a freshness to a category, it felt really good, and it was really what kind of has kept me going. Even it kept all of us going as we've grown. There still is not a lot of options for for really good quality novelty product.
Right. And are you still able to source local ingredients for those as you've scaled?
Yeah.
How do you make that happen when you're going large scale and you're going national?
Yeah. I mean, the dairies are local, so we're obviously using Oregon dairies. The flavors are either local or we're producing ourselves. We have our kitchen, so we make our own strawberry jam using local strawberries. We use local mint. We make our own like dulce de leche from local milk. The only thing is the vanilla, for the vanilla ice cream is hard to find in the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, and the honey and all the flavors are still local. And as long as we can do it, we're gonna keep doing it.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
So are you still in farmers markets as well?
So no, we haven't been in farmers markets for a few years.
And how did you decide that? How did you decide to move away from markets and focus more on regional and national distribution? And was it tough? Did you have to say bye to your family? And
so tough. It was still so sad and tough. Very tough. And it was just logistics. It was like finding the right people, because just with the frozen, we had to have dry ice, and it was just getting up early enough and finding the right people to end up working it, because we did definitely get to a point where we couldn't work the markets anymore. And even my husband was working it for a while, but it just became like a lot of work. And then also there's a point where when you're selling, too far out of the region, it doesn't feel as special anymore, And for a while, I still wanted to do the specific Portland Farmers Market line, where we had our regular, more commercial flavors, but then we were doing all these fun specialty flavors using, the local peaches and all the things from the market. But it just got to be too much to do it all. We didn't have enough staff, honestly, and people power.
It's a lot to balance. Whenever we see a vendor that's been with us for a while that then has gone into wholesale or opened a brick and mortar, they invariably, when that starts to happen, they'll say, oh, but I'm never going to leave the farmer's market on us. And we say, we know you mean that. And when two people call in sick, you're not going to not open your store. Or fulfill that sell order, you're going to call out of the market. It just happens. So we have a tiny little group of folks that have gone national that are still showing up at the market every week. They've figured out staffing and things, but it's pretty unusual. Once you go wholeheartedly into wholesale or to brick and mortar, it's typically at some point you're going to have to fade out of that face-to-face market thing.
Yeah, you just successed your way.
Yeah, it just happens. It's okay, and we're happy for folks when that happens, even though we're often sad to see those individuals leave the market or that product.
Yeah, it was really hard for me. That was like I love it. I loved it so much being there.
And I think that is a really good point too about when you do have really good brand recognition and your products are available in a lot of other stores. There is something about like if you have this real estate at the farmer's market, I think at a certain point, if you already are so many other places, it makes sense to kind of pass on that spot to somebody else. And, because the farmer's market is a really good food incubator. It's a great incubator for small businesses. and it's time for somebody else to
Exactly.
That's
fill
true.
your big shoes.
That's true. We actually know of a couple of markets that once people get into a certain number of outside paths to sell things, they want them to move out. They want to give up that space to a more emerging
Yeah.
business.
I think that was one of the rules at the farmers market too. Like if it was one of the things, like if you had enough distribution, like you almost weren't allowed. Like Dave's Killer Bread is an example. They started also at the market with us, and they weren't, once they got into lots of distribution, they were able to become a sponsor of the market, which is awesome. They weren't selling there, but they were a financial contributor.
Yeah, I still see
great.
that.
Yeah, we just saw them on the banners at the PFM. So
Yeah. Cool. So in addition
Yeah.
to your distribution, your in stores, you have these really cute little things called Ruby Jewel boxes, which that name is just perfect. Can you explain to us like what that is and operationally how does it work?
Yeah, so our jewel boxes are just little standalone freezers that are branded with our pink, branding and our logo, and then they are supposedly filled with all of our products. So instead of having to scan through the freezer case, because as you're on shelf, it's harder to find. We're hoping that our jewel boxes are standalone and are closer to the register a lot of times, and places for that impulse buy, because it is an impulse buy a lot of times too, is something you want to just buy and eat right away. And so the jewel boxes have been really helpful in increasing our sales because we have our own freezer with our own branding and all of our own product in it.
Well, so then in addition to making lots more ice cream sandwiches so that you can wholesale, you're also producing freezers, branded freezers. So it sounds like this was probably not just an out-of-pocket thing to move expansion this far along. Did you have to get loans or investors, or how did you make that jump?
Oh yeah. I've started with all credit card debt,
Of course,
and yeah. And then I had gotten loans, and then I went into the investor route. So yeah, right now we have some wonderful actual partner investors that have really helped Ruby Jewel grow. It really the caveat to needing investment was when we outgrew our production facility that we had first started making all the ice cream, because we did also open brick and mortars. And so when those came up, we had totally grew out of our production facility. So we needed investment to take us to the next level. It was always really important to me that we produced our own ice cream sandwiches and didn't get them co-packed out, because I really wanted to have as much control of the end product. And so I'm really proud of our facility in Portland where we make all of the ice cream sandwiches. We call it Sandwich City. And that all would not have happened without loans and investment.
So you're still making them all in Portland and shipping them. You don't
we
have
make them all, out by the airport.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And
if you want to come take a tour, we'd love to have you.
Yeah,
we get to
I
the
would love
Northwest.
that.
Yeah, intermittently. So we will take you up on that at some point. So do you have any advice that you'd give to other farmers market vendors that want to push their business to the next level and go into, major wholesaling and national distribution? Are there things they should watch out for when it comes to talking to investors or taking loans or looking at how they're going to produce their product?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest advice I could give is a lot of people that start a business have a lot of creative energy and like great ideas, and like me, and a lot of people don't understand the number side of the business. And it is so important to know how much your product costs to make, and then to understand all of the different costs involved with running a business. Just the whole business in general is going to cost a lot of money, insurances and employees and taxes, all the things, right? So I always really encourage anybody who's starting to first of all, have a goal. So if they do want to go national, that's great. Then let's break it down on the steps that it would take to get there. Like, how many units do you have to make? What does it cost you to make it? And what can you actually sell it for? What will people buy it for? And, I think the farmers market's a great way for people to test that out. Like, how much are people willing to pay for a jar of ghee, butter, whatever it is. And I think that can translate pretty well to the mainstream, but there's also, different, yeah, I would say definitely know your numbers, and then also know what your competition is. Because if you're doing really well at the market with your local, customers, that's great. But you really need to spend some time knowing what else is out there and what your competition is. Because as you're going into meetings to talk to buyers of some of these bigger grocery stores, they get pitched so many. There's so many there. You go to their office and it's like, oh my God, you have like 15 salsas. Like, so what's your differentiator? Know your competition and know what differentiates your product and be really confident about it. And I think that if you have that grit, your numbers, and you have something that's really different, and you've already gone to the market, even, it's you have a really great chance of growing and making it happen.
Yeah, that's great. I know knowing those numbers is so important. We have so many folks that get bedazzled because a Whole Foods forager comes through the market or something and wants to talk to them.
Yeah.
But they haven't really thought through that if they're selling this ice cream sandwich for $3.50, but Whole Foods is keeping X amount of it and they want you to give them a sampling allowance and all that, what's that actually going to translate to? I've seen people succeed themselves out of business who didn't, weren't really aware of all those variations in pricing. So yeah, good advice.
And the distribution side too. Like, yeah, you can self-distribute it for, a long time, but ultimately you're going to need help with getting it out there, whether it's, the big distributors or small ones, but they're going to take a cut, and they should take a cut, right? They're either picking it up or they're driving it, and, they have their drivers and all that, but it's hard for people to understand the distribution costs in addition to the store margins.
Yeah.
So
how many cardboard boxes did Baby Glidesdale hot sauce use up? Justine had a hot sauce business back in the day at the markets.
Yeah.
And I think she's a happy podcast producer now.
Yeah.
Selling food is hard.
Selling food is hard. Selling food that melts sounds really hard.
Yeah. That does sound even harder than a shelf-stable packaged product.
I mean, it all sounds difficult, but yes, it's a little temperamental. Well, it sounds like you kind of figured it out since you're wildly succeeding now. And it's always nice to talk to someone who's a success story that started in the market. We always talk about we love talking to these businesses that got their start in farmers markets, really did the incubation, did the, test market and launched out into the big wide world and is doing such a great job. So this has been a great story. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the farmers market and a big supporter of all businesses that want to start that way. It's the best way to get in front of people. You can sample, you can sell. It's just in for such a low cost, usually for, comparing it to a brick and mortar. I think I'm a huge advocate for starting at the farmers market.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Love to hear that.
Love hearing that.
So what does the future of Ruby Jewel look like? Where are you going? What's next for you?
Well, I think you said it in the intro. It's world domination. It maybe sounds cheesy, but I do really want, when you think of Kleenex being, the brand for what tissues are, or Xerox is the branding for a copy machine, I want people to hear Ruby Jewel or think ice cream sandwich and just think Ruby Jewel. Ruby Jewel is what an ice cream sandwich should be. And it shouldn't be, weird, artificially flavored wafers with,
that chocolate thing that sticks to the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
That you got at school. Yeah, nasty.
Exactly. An ice cream sandwich should be a real all butter chocolate chip cookie with, real ice cream in the middle. And that's what an ice cream sandwich should be. So that's the ultimate goal.
Well, it's worked on me so far. So from now on, when I hear ice cream sandwich, I'm going to be out there looking for a Ruby Jewel. How many states are you in?
So, good question. I think we're in about, I'd say at least 25 states.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to find one.
We're going to find Sprouts nationwide.
Cool.
You guys, I think it's Sprouts down in San Diego.
Oh, yes.
I'll send you a separate email, but we have.
Awesome.
And our website actually has a really great location tool now. So you can just type in your zip code and you can see where they're before they're sold.
That's handy to know because I am sure that everybody that's listening to this podcast today is going to jump off of here.
Their mouths are watering.
Their zip code and go looking for
Go get one.
Ruby Jewels. Thank you so much for being with us today, Lisa. This was a terrific, inspiring story. It was wonderful to hear from you, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. And big thanks to the Kitchen Door for helping food makers find the right licensed commissary kitchens to support their farmers market businesses, getting them off to a great start, like Lisa at Ruby Jewel Ice Cream Sandwiches. And thanks to Kitchen Door for supporting Tent Talk, the farmers market podcast. Get cooking by clicking the Kitchen Door logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow farmers market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Kat Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.